Tomorrow is the day that we honor the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I think it is easy to tell the civil rights movement as the story of only one person, and perhaps as only a story that happened in the South. But we know it was the efforts of hundreds of thousands of people all across our country that led to greater equity and equality and justice in our country. And so today, we're lifting up one of those people who doesn't get a whole holiday named after him, named Duane Roberts, who was a member of this congregation and worked for justice and equity in Kalamazoo, because we needed help here too, and he helped us get a little better. So come let us remember his story, but also all of the stories that are important to be told as we honor the legacy of the civil rights movement, and as we look forward to a time where we might be called into new and bolder action for justice, equality, equity, and love in our community. So come let us gather together. Come let us worship together.
Good morning. My name is Donna McClurkin, and I'm here as a member of the Sunday Services Committee. Welcome to all of you joining us today for today's service, those in person, on Zoom, and later on YouTube. A special welcome is extended to newcomers and visitors here in the Commons and virtually. We are so glad you're with us on this frigid winter morning. We gather in this space to learn what it means to be in relationship, what it means to be human, and what it means to be Unitarian Universalists. Let us now move into worship, authentic and curious, with compassion and open to connection in all its forms.
And now a few announcements. We have several opportunities for learning and connection this week. After the service today, there's a sermon discussion at 12:15 in room 9, which is the room with the big statue of the Buddha in it, kind of right directly behind where we are right now. There's also at 12:30 an Inquirers series class. So these are classes designed for people newer to our community, but open to everyone. Today's topic is Unitarian Universalist history and sources and values. So if you want to come hear me try to cram about 500 years of history into 30 minutes or less, come to that. It should be fun. Other opportunities later in the week. On Tuesday afternoon at 1:30, we'll have a gathering on Zoom to check in about how we are doing the day after the inauguration. All are welcome to join me. It's at the same Zoom link as the Sunday service. It'll be a conversation of support, sustenance, and maybe a little bit of strategy. Wednesday evening is the next session of our book discussion on braiding sweetgrass for young adults. So that's at 6:30 in room L2 here at the church, and there's a potluck dinner. So please come for conversation and bring something to share. The book, that section will be focusing on part 2 of the book. And next Sunday, Diane Melvin, our wonderful religious educator, will be in the pulpit bringing a message of rest, resistance, and community in this moment. So please show up in person, on Zoom, on YouTube for that. And finally, we are looking for a few more childcare workers here at the church, especially people with availability on Sunday mornings. So if you know of anyone who is skillful with young children, please encourage them to be in touch. Most of our best folks in the past have been people's neighbors or babysitters or teachers, and we pay above market rate. We're pretty flexible and very nice. We have job postings on Indeed, or you can tell people to be in touch with Eli, our church administrator, so they can start our screening and interview process. So all of the music today that we will be, or most of it, they'll be singing or hearing, has a connection to Duane Roberts. So, he participated in the full stage musicals that People's Church used to produce in the 1960s. Some of you are nodding your heads. I find that bewildering that people had capacity, but amazing. So we'll have one of the songs from Guys and Dolls, where he was the lead. We know he loved Pete Seeger's If I Had a Hammer. And the song that was at his memorial service, and a song that made him cry, he talked about that, was We Shall Overcome. So I invite you into whatever posture helps you sing your best this morning to join us in We Shall Overcome.
Standing. Are we on? Okay. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Let's take it up a little bit. We walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall all be free someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday. Thank you.
So this is the chalice lighting part of our service. And just a reminder for folks on Zoom, if you're lighting a chalice at home, we encourage you to type in the chat box, a chalice is lit, and your location. And I would like to invite Catherine Boltman up to light our chalice. So our chalice lighting reading today is from Article 2 of the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities.
In addition to our chalice here at People's Church, we have many folks with us on Zoom today. Chalices are lit in Fenville, Galesburg, on Gull Road, on Munson Lake near Grand Junction, in Bronson Hospital, Battle Creek, the Millwood neighborhood, Parkview Hills, Matawan, and West Nedge Hill. What a gift to all be together, even when we are not all in the same place. Oh, and Augusta. I'd now like to invite our children forward for a story and conversation. I am so glad that you all are with us today. Thank you for coming to church with us. And I know that the bigger children, our middle school and high school youth, are off visiting Threads Church, which is a post-evangelical church, as part of their learning about other wisdom traditions. So I have Bartlett, our jet pig, here, because we're going to be talking a little bit about our values. And we remember that jet pig is a word that helps us remember what is important to us as Unitarian Universalists. So the J is for what? Do you remember?
Joy.
Oh, joy is so important, but it is for justice. E is for?
Equity.
Okay, you be quiet. Equity. T is for? Transformation, how we learn and grow throughout our lives. The P is for?
Pluralism.
Pluralism. Do you guys know what that means?
No.
It's about how we are different, and that is a gift. I is for?
Individuality.
Oh, not individuality, but interdependence, about how we are all connected. And G is for? Generosity, with our time and our talent and our money. And then what's at the center of all of it?
Love.
Love. So our jet pig helps us remember what our values are. And our story today is about equity, about making things fair for everyone. So this is a story about schools. And I know some of you do homeschool. Which of you go to school in a building with a teacher and other children? Yeah. Which schools do you guys go to? Which school do you go to? You go to Northglade.
Oh.
What about you?
Lake Center.
Lake Center. What about you?
Woodland.
Woodland. Okay. What about you?
King Westwood.
King Westwood. What about you? Northglade. I know you also go to Northglade, Nilo. What about you?
Montessori.
Montessori. Awesome. Oh, do you want to share too?
Gilkey.
I couldn't, what?
Gilkey Elementary.
Gilkey. Awesome. So this is a story that's about the schools in Kalamazoo Public Schools, which is some of your schools like King Westwood and Northglade, but not all of them. So a long, long time ago, in 1968, which is not so long a time ago for some of these grown-ups, the schools in Kalamazoo were really segregated, which meant that certain schools were only for black children and lots of schools had no black children in them at all. And people said, this is not fair. And they worked to try to make it more fair. When something's not fair, what can you do to try to make it more fair? Any ideas? Well, these are some of the strategies they used. They showed up to meetings and talked. They did studies about why having unfair schools is bad for everyone. They engaged in electoral politics, so they voted about it, and they did lawsuits. So they took the school district to court. And one of the big leaders in this effort was a man named Duane Roberts, who was a member of People's Church, was maybe the first Black person to become a member of People's Church. And he worked in partnership with lots of people to try to make the schools more fair. And it took them 7 years before the school district finally said, we're gonna make it fair. We might put people on a bus and send them to a school that's farther from their neighborhood, so they'll have classmates who look like the world and not just like their closest neighbors. So I think it's such a wonderful thing that at so many of our schools, there's lots of different kids of lots of different races and lots of different backgrounds, because I think it makes everybody's education better and more fair. And the reason that we have that in Kalamazoo is because of Duane Roberts and others like him.
Here.
So I hope that that might inspire you guys when something is not fair to use all kinds of strategies to try to make it better, okay? So that is our story for today. Thank you all. Let's sing you to your classes, okay?
Go forth in peace in search of wisdom, with love to guide you on your way. And may the joy of life surround you wherever you may go. Go forth in peace in search of wisdom, with love to guide you on your way. And may the joy of life surround you wherever you may go.
People's people are generous people. And once a month, we send our offering baskets beyond our walls to do good and important work in our community. And today, the recipient of our special offering is Care Collective of Southwest Michigan. So Sarah and Jay, please, or at least Sarah, come up and tell us about your good and important work. And all of you, please give generously.
Thank you for having us this morning. My name is Sarah, and I'm the director of Care Collective of Southwest Michigan. I'm here with my colleague Jay, who is our outreach manager. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to tell you a little bit about our work, but I'm especially honored to be invited during a week where your theme is equity. Care Collective has existed for only about 2 years. We were founded because we saw unmet need in our community and inequity. So what we did was we gathered a group of caregivers and parents and community leaders and nonprofit staff, and we formed Care Collective. And what we have done in these past 2 years is partner with 25 other nonprofits so far to provide free diapers for parents with young children and to provide free period supplies for tweens, teens, and young adults. We saw that there was unmet need that was preventing people from engaging in community, attending work, and that specifically impacted families of color the most. We know that about half of families in Kalamazoo with young children experience diaper need, don't have enough money to meet their family's basic needs, and those numbers skyrocket for families of color. 3/4 of Black families in Kalamazoo County and 9 out of 10 Latino families can't meet their family's basic needs. So we use a different model that allows us to partner with the agencies where families are already visiting, already getting services, and already building community and forming relationships with those at the location. So I'm extra excited today too, because I've been here before and I got to speak to you all in October of 2023. And at the time, we were invited because we had just started piloting our period supply program. We were doing diapers, but period supplies were new, and we were about halfway through our 3-month pilot. And in that pilot, the last 3 or 4 months of 2023, we distributed about 10,000 period products, which was a big deal, starting from nothing. And we distributed about 100,000 diapers in 2023 as well. But in 2024, with the support of folks in this room, folks like you, our community members coming together, we were able to distribute more than 500,000 diapers and 140,000 period products. And so, thank you. Those products specifically help families, and predominantly families of color, engage in all of the opportunities, education, job, community building available in Kalamazoo, and we could not do this without your support, so thank you. This QR code takes you to our webpage that has signing up for our newsletter, following us on social media, because we would love to have you come join us, volunteer, learn about what we're doing. That is another way that you can support us in this work. And Jay and I will be here after the service to talk more and answer questions and tell you different ways that you can get involved as we grow and plan to double the number of period products and spread further from just KPS into the surrounding county. So thank you.
Velvet, I can wish you for the color of your coat, and fortune smiling all along your way. But more I cannot wish you than to wish you find your love, your own true love this day. Mansions, I can wish you 7 footmen all in red, and calling cards upon a silver tray. But more I cannot wish you than to wish you find your love, your own true love this day. Standing there, gazing at you, full of the bloom of youth. Standing there, gazing at you, with the sheep's eye and the licorice tooth. Music, I can wish you merry music while you're young, and wisdom when your hair has turned to gray. But more I cannot wish you than to wish you find your love, your own true love this day. With the sheep's eye and the licorice tooth and the strong arms to carry you away.
Please join me in giving thanks for all that sustains us. From the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love, which none of us can accomplish alone.
People's Church is a community that supports one another. One of the ways we do this is we take time when we are gathering together to lift up the joys and sorrows and other milestones of our lives. So if you have something you wish to share, if you're on Zoom, please type it into our chat box. If you're here in person, please come forward, place a stone in our bowl of water, speak briefly, and share your name. Now I place a few more stones for the joys and sorrows and other milestones we are holding quietly in our hearts today, the joy and sorrow in our wider community and in our wider world. Sources of reason and radiance, sources of courage and compassion, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this day. May the suffering be soothed, may the weary find rest, may the sick be tended, may the dying and those who love them find peace, and may the joyous be shielded. And may all of us know we are wrapped in a love that surrounds us always, a web that connects us to all that exists. A prayer for Martin Luther King Jr. Sunday. Spirit of justice, God who befriends those who stand upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone, we are grateful to be together this morning. We gather especially to remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but not only him, for there were thousands of unnamed people who put their bodies and lives on the line so that all may be free. And yet freedom comes at a cost. And we know that racism and homophobia, ageism and ableism, sexism and classism, all of these often unacknowledged realities prevent us from fully knowing one another, prevent us from creating beloved community, spoken of by prophets and ordinary people alike. May the work of Dr. King continue to eradicate injustice wherever and whenever we encounter it. May we continue to speak out against injustice and to speak even if we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. May the spirit of Dr. King continue to flow through our daily living, and may we have the courage of Dr. King as we continue to stand up for justice, reconciliation, and truth, despite challenge and controversy. Dr. King went to the mountaintop. He saw the promised land, and he reassured us we will get there one day. May that not be a dream, but a reality in our own time. May it be so. Amen.
Please join me in song. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
Our first reading is a passage from an editorial in the Kalamazoo Gazette on October 19th, 1989, the day after the death of Duane Roberts. All of the children of this community were Duane Roberts' children. No one had a stronger desire that all children succeed. No one worked harder to fully open the doors of opportunity. If this community is ever fully integrated, when people listen to each other, work together, solve problems, and improve the quality of life for individuals of all races and backgrounds, Roberts will deserve much of the credit.
Our second reading today is a poem in tribute to Paul Robeson by Gwendolyn Brooks. And Paul Robeson was from the generation before Duane Roberts, an activist and a theater actor, especially known for his performances in musicals. And given that Duane was also known for activism and starring in musicals at People's Church, it felt like a fitting tribute. We can expand the dedication, at least in our own hearts this morning. Paul Robeson. That time we all heard it, cool and clear, cutting across the hot grit of the day, the major voice, the adult voice, foregoing rolling river, foregoing tearful tale of bale and barge and other symptoms of an old despond. Warning, in music words devout and large, that we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. And now we have another song that Duane loved.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit to sing this one with Laura and I. We got a couple different words. Don't worry if you don't do the right ones. That's all right. Where's G? Hold on. Yeah. If I had a hammer, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out a warning, I'd hammer out love between my friends and my neighbors, all over this land. Ooh, if I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out a warning, I'd ring out love between my friends and my neighbors, all over this land. Ooh, if I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out a warning, I'd sing out love between my friends and my neighbors, all over this land. Oh, well, I got a hammer, and I got a bell, and I got a song to sing all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's a song about love between my friends and my neighbors, all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's the song about love between my friends and my neighbors, all over this land. All right.
Good morning. My name is Martha Cohen. Our family started to attend People's Church in 1955. My parents were familiar with Unitarian philosophy as they were married by a UU minister in Newark, New Jersey in 1947. At People's, they found many kindred spirits and shared experiences. Duane Roberts started attending People's during the same time period. I remember waiting and listening during the coffee hour to Duane and my parents sharing many things that were important to them and things that I overheard as a child, thankfully. Obviously, I didn't understand all the adult talk, but I did recall a lot of talk about school. Duane would always ask what we learned that week. Wasn't always prepared for that question. Little did I realize at the time that Duane would later become one of the strongest advocates for integrating our community and our public schools. Duane eventually ran for and won an election to the Kalamazoo Public School Board, despite not having any children of his own. Well, if you wanted an opinion about Duane getting along with children, you could have invited the People's Church RE participants. Duane's activism was contagious. However, it wasn't always appreciated. Duane always had a listed telephone number. He was a frequent recipient of prank phone calls. Instead of hanging up, Duane would attempt to talk to these people. I don't know how many conversions he got. Anyway. Our family attended an early boycott march at the Van Avery drugstore. My parents felt that it was very important to show our family's solidarity with Duane and what he was trying to achieve. When we arrived, there was a very large group of demonstrators and also a large group of Kalamazoo police officers. I'll never forget what my father said during the march while Duane was speaking to the crowd. My dad leaned over and said to me, "What Duane is doing today takes real courage." Those were the words. And I think those define Duane's activism in our community. Duane's memorial service was held here at Peoples. It was the largest and longest service I have ever attended in this building. Picture, if you can, every seat filled in the auditorium, people lined up in each aisle, and people crowded into the foyer. Our minister at the time would say, "Duane, we loved you living and we love you now." As you can probably tell, Duane Roberts was a very important influence in my life. Don't act surprised when I tell you I became a social worker. Thank you.
So you've heard a beautiful remembrance from Martha and one from Gay. Sorry for trying to cut you off. And so I will just offer some commentary on who Duane was. One of the spiritual practices that has become important to me in the past few years especially is knowing and honoring my ancestors. This includes the ancestors in my family line and knowing the struggles they survived. The grandmother whose family lost their Nebraska farm in the Great Depression, who finished high school as a domestic servant living in other people's homes. The other grandmother whose mother died when she was very young, whose father left her in Shanghai and sailed across an ocean in search of a new wife. I can't fully imagine these circumstances, but knowing that my people struggled through them brings me strength in my own hard moments. Many of us have stories of survival like this in our lineages. And ancestors are not only people we share a family connection to, they can be our mentors, the ones we know in the flesh or the ones we only know on the page or the screen or through the spoken traditions, through their art. Who are the ancestors that you claim? I have a collection of guides that I think of as my ancestors, whose stories and whose teachings I turn to when times are hard. And in this moment, when we are on the brink of so much that feels uncertain, a moment of fear and worry for what our lives and the lives of the people we love and the people and all of us and our world will look like in the next months and years, I offer you this practice. Who are your people who survived, who made a positive difference, who chose love again and again and again? How can you hold their stories close in the days that come? And I'm offering all of us a good ancestor this morning in Duane Roberts. Some of you know him already, some of you don't, and some of you are starting to get to know him as the service unfolds. He was a People's Church member who died 36 years ago, and his is a legacy worth preserving. You've heard about him already, and it has been such a gift for me personally over the last few weeks to learn his story from people's people who remember him, from local history resources in our community, and from his niece Angelica, the Roberts family historian. We should know his story, especially now. But first, a word about Duane's ancestors. When Duane was born in 1917, he was born into a family of free black people in the North that stretched back generations. His great-great-grandparents were Enoch and Deborah Harris, a black couple who were among the first settlers in Kalamazoo County, and they were the first settlers in the land now known as Oshtemo Township. Their farm was off Parkview, but there wasn't a Parkview then, obviously, due south of here. So Duane was descended from among the first non-native people to live in this land. He was also descended from families of black anti-slavery activists in Detroit and Massachusetts, including a family who devoted their lives to helping many self-emancipated folk escape across the Detroit River to freedom in Canada. And Duane didn't know this Detroit part of his family legacy. His niece, the family historian, made these connections later, but I like to think that it lived in him even without his conscious knowledge, that he was from a lineage of freedom. Duane was a proud graduate of the Kalamazoo Public Schools and served in the military during the Second World War as part of a segregated all-black squadron of the Army Air Force. Upon his return from the service, he graduated from Western Michigan University and did coursework in social work at Wayne State, inspiring generations of social workers to come. He didn't finish, saying that the GI Bill funding ran out. So he returned to Kalamazoo and he started working as a mailman, a job he held for 35 years. And on paper, perhaps he was overqualified for that role, but it suited him well. Some of this might have been because of the limited employment opportunities for black men in Kalamazoo in the 1950s, but it was also a work that allowed him the time and job security he needed for his activism. He said later, "In addition to helping people, working as a civil servant provided a degree of security that other professionals may not have afforded if they took up unpopular causes. It's also work that gave me time to serve on various committees and projects." During this time, in the 1950s, Duane became more deeply involved in the civil rights movement in Kalamazoo, especially with the local chapter of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, one of the leading civil rights organizations in our town to this day. One source I found said that Duane was president of the local NAACP chapter 8 times. It was also around this time that Duane became a member of People's Church. He might have been the first black person to sign the Bond of Union. We don't have great records on racial identity. But we know he was a deeply involved member by the late 1950s, remaining so for the rest of his life. In his work with the NAACP, Duane fought tirelessly and lovingly for equity in our community. Sometimes we think of civil rights as a Southern project, and it's not only that. And I think white Northerners like me like to tell ourselves that, oh, it only happened in the South so we can let ourselves off the hook and not face our own past. People of commitment and care like Duane faced the inequity that was here and gave us a more just community. There are many moments of struggle and triumph, and I will share just a few things that Martha touched on, but some of you can nod your heads immediately when you hear Van Avery drugstore boycott, and others need a little more context. So first, we'll talk about that drugstore boycott. The Van Avery drugstore was at 702 North Burdick Street, which is at the corner of Burdick and North, about a block south of Lincoln Elementary. It's where the Ecumenical Senior Center is now, if you're placing it in your mind. That's in the north side, a part of town that was and is mostly black due to federal redlining policies that enforce residential segregation. And the Van Avery drugstore, despite being there for decades, never had a black employee, even though most of their customers were black. So in the summer of 1963, the NAACP Youth Council encouraged black teens to look for summer jobs, and teens went out all over the community putting in applications. And at the Van Avery drugstore, When they asked to apply for work, they were not allowed to. The Van Avery drugstore was the only place in town that would not even accept applications from Black teens. So the teens reported back to the local chapter of the NAACP, and the adults, including Duane Roberts, approached Charles Van Avery, the owner, to encourage him to hire Black employees. He refused. So protests, boycotts, and picket lines began in front of the store while community leaders, Black and white, including Duane Roberts, worked to get the drugstore to have fair hiring practices. And after several weeks, a compromise was found and the protests stopped. A Black employee was hired in September of that year. Leaders in the Black community reported that this protest shifted employment practices across town. About 30 businesses in Kalamazoo hired their first Black employee within the next few months. And this protest also led Black people to become aware of their own power in our town. Reflecting later, Duane Roberts said, "I think this accomplished a bigger purpose. Our underlying objective was equality of opportunity, and the power shifted. Before, Black people were talking to a Black minister, and a Black minister was talking to a white liberal, and then a white liberal was talking to the power structure. And I can remember a meeting that we had after the march, and boy, some of those white liberals were shocked to hear our people saying, 'Now we will speak for ourselves. Nobody is going to speak for us.'" He continues, and to me, that is probably the most significant thing to come out of Van Avery's, because Black said, hey, now we're going to take charge of our destiny. You've also heard me and Martha talk about the efforts to integrate the public schools. In 1968, 14 years after the Supreme Court called for racially integrated schools in Brown versus Board of Education, the Kalamazoo public schools were still highly segregated. New schools were located in ways to minimize the Black enrollment at those schools, and Lincoln School in the north side was converted into a kindergarten through 9th grade school where all the Black students would go, so all of the junior highs could remain almost entirely white in the rest of town. The school board recognized that this was an illegal practice and so appointed a team to study the problem and make recommendations. And the team developed a plan for how to fix school segregation and achievement gaps, including busing children to integrate schools, hiring more teachers and administrators of color, and modifying the curriculum to better meet the needs of all of the children in the public schools. The school board moved very slowly, but accepted the plan piece by piece and voted to implement it, and voted finally to fully integrate elementary schools in 1971. Shortly after this vote, there were school board elections, and candidates who wanted segregation won in 1971 in our community, and the school board rescinded the plan. So the NAACP, with the leadership of Duane Roberts, sued Kalamazoo Public Schools. They had a good case, and the NAACP won the case, called Oliver versus Board of Education, at District Court and the Court of Appeals, with the school district continuing to appeal. There were regular protests from white parents who wanted segregated schools throughout all of this. Perhaps some of you remember that time in our community. And when the Supreme Court refused to hear the case in 1975, the school district had to comply with the integration plan. Through it all, Duane Roberts worked behind the scenes in support of the legal case and was a constant presence at school board meetings, advocating for school integration. Near the end of his life, Duane was elected to the Kalamazoo School Board, as Martha said, where he continued to work from the inside to make sure all of our children received good educations. This work for school integration is Duane Roberts' proudest legacy. He said later, "If there's something I'd like to be remembered for, it's Oliver versus Board of Education and its effects on educational opportunity in Kalamazoo and school desegregation in the North." In learning about Duane Roberts, one of the things that I have been most struck by is how powerfully kind and how profoundly kind and loving he was. You heard Martha speak about how he was a friend to all of the children at the church. And there were so many remembrances published in the Kalamazoo Gazette after his death with this refrain of his kindness. Edward Annan was the mayor of Kalamazoo when Duane died, and he said, Duane Roberts dedicated his life to helping people understand each other, work together, and to eliminate discrimination from our society. He never failed to speak his mind, but he never failed to show his love. His epitaph, which we heard about earlier from Gay, he wrote in an adult education class, was simple. He loved. We have a slide of that. So that's in our memorial garden outside. So if you want a place to visit this ancestor, you can see him there. Duane Roberts made our values real in profound ways, working for equity, justice in our community, and moving forward with love at the center of all he did before we even had a little jet pig to remind us to act that way. So may we go and do likewise. In this moment, may we hold Duane Roberts' memory as an inspiration as we continue the loving work of equity. And may we claim him as an ancestor and continue so others might claim us later. May it be so. May we make it so. And amen.
All right, at this time, I invite you one last time to rise and body your spirit to sing together. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
So our service is ending a little earlier than it normally does. So if you have children in RE, enjoy 10 minutes of time for yourself before you try to fetch them. Have a cup of coffee, just 10 bonus minutes. What a gift. So as we go out into the world in this time that is uncertain, may we hold the stories of our ancestors, the ones we chose, close to our hearts, and may they inspire us, and may we live lives such that others will choose us. Let us go in peace and go in love.